Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Apparently this is the last soccer game from Electronic Arts with the name FIFA in it, due to some license issues which involves a lot of money. But no worries at all, Electronic Arts will continue to do soccer or Fußballspiele, they will just change their name. So let's start as always with the HDR system level calibration on the console, and no, FIFA 23 does not support this menu here, at least not on the Xbox Series X, but I'm very sure the same counts for the PlayStation 5. FIFA 23 is a very good example that you shouldn't trust HDR settings, in-game HDR settings at all, at least not in this game. So the standard factory setting is 100 and this is completely terrible wrong, and even you would actually follow the instruction on the screen in accordance with your TV, then you still end up with the wrong HDR settings. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. If you own a TV with a proper HDR support, like in my case the LG CX, then the most accurate way to set up HDR on this TV would be by using HDR. But if you would now follow the instructions on the screen and you would end up with setting 8 for the HDR brightness on the LG CX, this is still wrong. And if you now have a TV with no HDR support, just some sort of dynamic tone mapping, then, and that's in my case with the LG CX, I would need to set this to 35 according to the instructions on the screen, but then HDR is way too bright. The HDR setting in the game is not the only setting what we have to change the appearance from the picture. Under accessibility, we have also brightness and contrast. And now let's talk about my recommended settings for FIFA 23 on the Xbox X and PlayStation 5 PC. So please keep in mind, I just tested the Xbox Series X. I'm not quite sure about the settings from the PlayStation 5 or PC, but usually there shouldn't be any difference in terms of settings. And I mentioned this before, even if you have a TV with HDR support, please do not follow the instruction in the HDR menu in the game, because you would end up with a wrong HDR peak brightness. Instead of following the instructions on the screen, just use my recommended settings here, and I made it actually very easy. For the CX, C1, C2, G1, use HDR brightness 10 because this gives you 839 candela. Also, what I would recommend, use brightness 5 and change contrast to 7, and just put in the comment section how you like the picture. So let's move on to TVs with a little bit of a higher peak brightness like the G2, S95B and A95K. Use HDR brightness 12 because this gives you around 1026 candela, brightness 5 and contrast 7. And if your TV supports a maximum peak brightness of around 1200 candela, then the right setting would be 15. If your TV supports around 1500 candela, it would be 18. If your TV supports around 2000 candela, then it would be 24. For the QN90A and B and the QN95A and B, I would recommend a HDR brightness from 20 because this gives you around 1600 candela. And again, I would recommend to leave brightness at 5 and try contrast at 7. Okay, so let's talk about HDR, dynamic tone mapping on, and of course dynamic tone mapping off, but I personally don't like dynamic tone mapping off in this game at all. My recommendation is actually use dynamic tone mapping on the LG CX and also on the LG G2, because HDR on both TVs is a little bit too dull in my opinion. It was better on the LG G2 because of the slightly higher maximum peak brightness, but still I found a little bit of brightness is missing. So dynamic tone mapping on for me is the way to play this game. And then of course we have Dolby Vision on the Xbox Series as well, but this game does not support Dolby Vision natively, therefore there shouldn't be any improvement or different picture actually when you use Dolby Vision. The only difference what you may see is because Dolby Vision picture mode has different settings on your TV. But again, Dolby Vision is not natively supported in this game, therefore it's just using the HDR10 metadata and it will look very similar to HDR and HDR10. Another year, another FIFA, but this time for the last time, because they're going to change their name from the game due to, and I mentioned this already, license issues, or here money issue, not money issue. Electronic Arts I think has enough money, but at some point FIFA the FIFA consortium or company is just a little bit too greedy, way too greedy. But anyway, no worries at all. Electronic Arts will continue doing soccer games because yeah, they're earning a lot of money with this. Maybe not with the actual player next year and a complete different name, but we will see something like that, I'm very sure, next year as well. FIFA 23, I had a lot of fun, but to be very honest, if I would now play FIFA 22, what is actually the difference? Maybe different names because the clubs changed players or whatever, or player changed the clubs. That's maybe the only difference. But in terms of gameplay, in terms of graphic, in terms of presentation, to be very honest, it's not worth for me to pay again a full price, or let's say $70, $80, $90 for this. But that's just me, because if you are a big soccer fan, of course, then yeah, go for it, because the game is just great. HDR looks great, and I mentioned it already. The overall presentation from this game, I really like it. Anyway, that's enough, I think, for this video. I need to continue working on my next one. I see you guys next time. Thank you very much. See ya.